So, yeah, I thought what we'd do is let's strike right back to where you were born. I'm not going to cover this. I know it's 10 minutes, but I thought if I get up there,
Yeah.
I'm going to go, well, he was funny,
Yeah.
and that's sit down again. But so where were you born?
I was born in Reading.
Yeah.
And the only person I know was in attendance was my mother. She called me William. My father called me Ugly. We got on fine.
You're enjoying this?
Yeah, yeah. It was rather lovely. And then we moved from Reading because
Brilliant.
my father was on the railway and his work brought him to Bournemouth.
Right.
So we moved to Bournemouth, Stewart Road.
What year?
Oh, God.
How old were you? Ish.
You were
About
four,
7.
4 or 5, I thought you.
I was told I was about 7, but I'm not
Okay.
Okay. What school did you go to then?
sure.
What school did you go to?
Talbot Village.
No, before that I went to another school near Stewart Road, but I can't remember
Right.
really anything.
So
about
you've been down in Bournemouth almost all your life.
it. Well, apart from when we moved to Gloucester and I was up there. for a
Yeah,
while.
that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I went to school there, and then what did we do from there? We moved from there to Wallerstein. Yeah, to Wallerstein, and then from Wallerstein to Ensbury Park. And I went to Talbot Village School first, and then from there to East Howe School, which was exclusively the boys' school. I don't know if I was particularly bright at school. I know I was very poor on mathematics.
Right.
That they were a real
Well,
problem.
what were you good at then? What was your specialist?
Well, I used to like geography,
Right.
but there was nothing. I mean, the school days were happy days,
Yeah.
but there was nothing that I particularly specialised in. To me, the school was somewhere where you went and did as you were told, and then went home. You know, which made it quite good days for me.
Yeah.
And I know that the war was on, and I know we were taking a gardening class, or rather in a gardening class one day, and we had some cauliflowers. They were beautiful. And I broke the centre of one of them and ate it raw, you see. And the teacher caught me. And whilst I can't recall the exact conversation, it was sort of, Giles, what do you think you're doing? I said, well, I've just eaten this cauliflower. I mean, he'd see me doing it. And so she said, well, why did you do that? And I said, because I'm hungry. And tears came in his eyes. And he turned away. Because then we weren't starving, but times were hard. Food was very short. But if it was plentiful, it didn't matter, we didn't have any money. You know, we were very poor,
Really.
very poor.
So, what your dad still work on the railways?
My dad was still on the railway.
Doing what on the railways?
Engine cleaning mainly.
Right.
He would fire up the boilers to get the engines ready for use.
Right.
Because obviously with steam engines,
Yes.
they've got to be fired up hours
Yeah.
before they're ready for
Right.
use. And
This was down at the Bournemouth station,
almost,
which would have been where the dual carriageway is now, I guess. Yeah. There.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that he was brought home one night on a stretcher. He was working under an engine, and somebody moved the stupid thing. And he got his elbow caught up in the wheel or something before they realised what had happened. But they did, and yeah, I recall that he took to his grave with this black mark of coal and oil under his skin where he was injured.
Always there.
Yeah, where he was injured, and they obviously did it up, but didn't clean it out.
Wow.
And they always,
Goodness gracious.
yeah, they always had that. He was a good man.
Yeah. But you were poor because of the you were poor because of the wars and the rationing. Did he go to war?
No.
Your dad didn't go to war.
First of all.
No.
First World War he did. Yeah.
Yeah, he spent his service in India mainly,
Right.
Khyber Pass and all that, you know, where the horses were all important. We can get plenty of men, but look after the horses, you know,
Yeah.
literally, that sort of thing. And yeah, so that was that. My childhood was a happy one
Yeah.
because there was no reason for it not to be.
Mm.
My mother loved us, and father did as well, but mother loved us and cared to our physical needs, you know, food and all that sort of thing. We never knew actually how hard times were until we grew up,
Mm.
and then we knew. One thing I can remember my mother saying is that because she was very precise about clothes and cleanliness, even though the clothes were never elegant, they were always clean and tidy. And she always used to say, you might be poor, but there's no need to let everybody know, which I thought was very good.
Mm.
I work the other way about. If I'm poor, I want people to know and I might get a bit of help, but I don't. And so then, school days, I went, that's it, after I'd finished school, my future was planned. One night, Friday night, sat at the table having dinner, and my father said, you've left school then, my son? I said, yeah. He said, well, you better get a job. So that was my future plan.
Yeah.
So I jumped on my bike on a Saturday morning and rode round looking for boy wanted signs. And I saw one in the window of Kennedy's Builders Merchants in Winton.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I got a job there. It suited me all right. But the chappie that was the manager, he was all right, but he was a funny sort of chap in that, well, the yardstick those days was whether or not you'd been in the army, and he hadn't. So he obviously wasn't fit enough for the army. And he couldn't cope, because there was not only me there, but there was another young lad the same age as me. And he couldn't cope with the two of us, you know, because, I don't know why, he used to drive him mad. You know, we used to do, like one day, there was a whole load of paint that came in. And they were in a box, 4 gallons of paint in a box. And he told us to take them upstairs to the store. By logic, I was a bit stupid, humping all this lot upstairs, you know, the heavy stuff. But there were, that was the instructions. So instead of carrying them out, we thought what we'd do, we'd get a bit of rope and tie it through the handles of this box and pull it upstairs, which was fine, of course, but the box broke.
Oh.
And yeah, and the 4 went down, and they all opened. So he was quite depressed about that. And after a while, he just couldn't cope with us. But in the same yard, or in the backyard of the shop, was the steel scaffolding department. And I was quite a big lad and a strong lad. And one day the manager said to me, how would you like to work on scaffolding? I said, oh, yeah, that'd be fine, because it open air, travelling all over the place with these macho sort of thing, you know. And so I went on to the scaffolding department. And I was there until I was called up for the army. And after I'd been and done my army service.
Which was in Vienna, yeah? Which was in Vienna? Was it in Vienna?
That's where I went, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, you didn't go straight to Vienna, obviously.
Oh,
I went to Dorchester to start with, because that was the selection place. And this, I'm not sure, an officer or a sergeant, but somebody on an interview, they said to me, you know, you're big and stupid, so you'd make a military policeman. So I thought, what would a military policeman do? But anyway, that's what I was. And I was sent to Scarborough. Well, that in itself was a bit of a joke, because I'd never been anywhere, you know, apart from Bournemouth. And I was just given a railway warrant and told to go to Scarborough. Why did you get to Scarborough, for goodness sake? And the fellow said, well, go to the station, get a train. And they gave me a packet of sandwiches, and off I went. And I don't know how, but I found my way to Scarborough. That was a military police training depot. And I spent, however long the training was, like 12 weeks, I suppose. And I enjoyed it well enough. You know, I found it was hard going in that discipline was very, very strict. But I didn't bother too much about that. I just did what I was told, when I was told. And then I was posted from there to Austria. So we went straight to Vienna to start with. And then from Vienna, I was sent to Klagenfurt. Klagenfurt, that's where I spent most of my time.
Where's that?
Klagenfurt, Austria.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. You don't know your history, do you?
No, I don't know. No.
Or your geography.
Was there a war on? Was there a war on or something? No,
Only when I got there.
Yeah, right.
There wasn't one when I started.
No.
And we had this thing, like I said, of because we were the law, and Austria was under martial law, which meant that we were the bosses, right? And I say they naturally objected to it. Most people, the civilians, people just put up with it. It was one of those things. They'd had the war, they'd been whacked, and we were there.
Doing your stuff.
Yeah, just doing our thing. That in itself had exciting moments. Like one day there was a SIB, which is Special Investigations Branch. This Sergeant Major called me, and I had a very close friend, Jim Mayhew. He was from Southampton. We met in the army, but we were very, very close friends. We were often put on duty together. We used to like to work together if we could. And he called us to his office one day and said, I've spoken to the OC and I want a couple of fellas to do a bit of a job for me. So we said, sure. And he said, tonight I want you to go to this place, Margaret and Keller, which was a cafe. And a man will be pointed out to you and you will arrest him and bring him back here. So I said, oh, yeah. He said, where off-duty clothes. You never wore civvies, you were always in uniform. But there's a difference between the duty and off-duty clothes. He said, wear off-duty clothes. So he said, fine. He said, and go to this cafe and have a drink. So Jim said, what do we buy the drink with? So he gave us some money. And he said, a man we pointed out to you, arrest him and bring him back here. So that was simple enough. And so we back, he said, by the way, he said, carry concealed weapons. Well, that was most unusual because normally you can't really see them, but you carried them in a holster there. But to wear concealed underarms weapons was most unusual, but it didn't matter to us. He said, carry concealed weapons. So I said, oh, fine. So we went to this particular keller on this evening. We took a Rover, but we parked it away from this cafe we were going to. And you could just leave it. You never had to worry about it because nobody would ever touch a military police vehicle. As a matter of fact, they just walked away just seeing it, without any guilt of any sort. And we went down into this cellar, and there weren't many people there. The barman, obviously, and a sort of fellow in that corner, one in that corner, another one here. This one at the table was as drunk as could be. He kept getting up, having a drink and crashing his head down on the table. And he was a right scruffy character, so we didn't take any notice of him at all. And we sat there with our drink, wondering what we were supposed to do. And Jim said to me, Bill, he said, that drunk over there. I said, yeah. He said, it's Sergeant Major Wright. I said, really? He said, yeah. So I looked and could see that it was. And he looked over to us in his drunken state. So he just nodded so that he knew we'd recognise him. And he just pointed to a man in the corner, you say. So he said, oh, that's the man, Jim. I said, come on then, we'll go and get him. Right, we're a couple of twits. We just walked up, the pair of us, went over to this man and said to him, you're under arrest. He looked quite frightened. And all of a sudden a shot rang out. We looked round, the Sergeant Major Wright with the gun in his hand. The other man in the other corner, he just shot him dead.
Really?
Yeah, but he got it with the gun in his hand. Because he was going to shoot us, because what we didn't know was this man had a minder there. And the two of us, because we were stupid, had went and approached this other man. And when Sergeant Major Wright saw us later, didn't he give us some stick? Because he just shot this fella and was out the door like a shot. And coincidentally, a civilian policeman happened to be going by up, and he came down with his lower bit, and he said, what's happening here then? We saw nothing. He said, somebody has shot somebody. He said, oh. I said, what are you doing here? I said, we're arresting this man. We didn't have to answer to him, but we did. No, we're arresting this man. What for? Mind your own business. So we had this man, and as we were walking out, the policeman said, what do I do about this body? We said, you can have it, we don't want it. And we left, and took him back with us. And Sergeant Major Wright was quite cross with us, because he said, he said, I picked you two because I thought you were reasonably intelligent. We said, we are reasonably intelligent. He said, no, you're not. He said, when two of you go to arrest a man in a strange place and not know who else is there, he said, you maybe shoot somebody. We said, he said, well, don't worry about it. It's just one of those things. And that was the sort of thing that you become involved in.
What should you have done then? What did he say you should have done?
Only one of us should have approached the man.
Right.
The other should have stayed well back
Right, like to watch.
to
Get
watch.
back. Yeah,
And then that situation couldn't have arisen
of course.
because this person that we arrested was that important in the black market
Yeah.
scheme of things that he was worth killing even military policemen
Right.
for. I say even because
I understand.
come on.
He had to be kept. Yeah.
Mm. And so that was, one of the incidents which.
Good job that guy was there. Really.
Well, it was a good job, but obviously if he hadn't been there, we wouldn't have been there.
That's
We were
true,
there
yeah.
because of
Yeah.
because of him, because he wanted this man
Mm.
arrested and brought back. So then there was another night he picked on us too. He said, tonight, that was him and his crowd, he said, are raiding a warehouse on the banks of the Danube. He said, there shouldn't be any problem because our information is that it's empty of people, but it's loaded with black market gear. He said, we're going to confiscate the lot. So, fair enough. He said, I want you to go to the far side of the warehouse. I said, on the edge of the Danube. He said, just in case there's anybody there. He said, we don't think there will be. And so they went to the front of the building, him and his crowd, however many they were. And all of a sudden the back door of the building opened and these men came dashing out. He was not aware there'd been a big meeting going on there of this black market gang. And so there was firing, people trying to shoot each other. So Jim and I joined in. And we had Sten guns and pistols. And after a moment, there was still this firing and all going on, bullets flying always. And I said to Jim, are you fixed for ammunition? He said, I'm just about out. I said, well, how much do you bring? He said, well, only one magazine. I said, well, that's clever. He said, what do you bring? I said, well, the same. And but after a moment, they managed to gain control, and all of the people were arrested. And a few days later, back at our HQ, we had that bit of a yard where our trucks used to be kept. You couldn't move them for great packs of cigarettes, literally millions of cigarettes, all of which were destroyed. The rain, and that just destroyed the whole lot. But it was that type of thing that used to keep us involved. We had another place, the Park Hotel. It was an officer's hotel, been confiscated or commandeered for officers to use. And every so often, these terrorists would phone up and say, we are going to blow up the Park Hotel. So we'd go dashing down there, throw everybody out and search it, and there was never anything there. But it caused chaos in the system. And one night, it was a coincidence, I was on duty. I wasn't actually at the desk, but I just heard the fellow that was on the desk say, oh, well, blow it up then. They'd phoned and said, we're going to blow up the Park Hotel. And he said, blow it up, so they did.
Really?
Yeah.
They
Yeah, so he didn't enter that telephone message in the book. But we dashed down there, and there had been a few people killed and a bit of damage done. But that again was the type of thing. You get a lot of that. Working with the Russians was funny because they are so thick. It is not true. We used to get them going something more, although they used to do the same to us because when we would go on leave or come back to UK for leave, obviously we would literally do that. If it's UK leave, you come home. But when we get back and we'd be on patrol and, the others would ask you how it went, because the Frenchman and the American knew we'd been on leave. If we said we were going home on leave, we'd go. But the Russians were told we didn't go on leave. We never ever went on leave. We just went down into Klagenfurt, the British zone of Austria, and spent the time there, and then went back, because they never went on leave. They never
Really?
went on leave. And in actual fact, when they were in the army, one day an officer might come along and say, "We don't need you anymore." So they were out of the army and had to make their way back home.
With nothing.
Nothing.
Gracious.
Yeah, and there were some funny people to
Yeah.
to deal with.
I remember you telling me about the Irish. You worked with some Irish people, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
You said there was one guy who got his hands
They.
stuck in the window.
Oh yeah, the sergeant major.
Tell that story again.
Yeah, well, he was a new sergeant major, and he was at the. I had to pick him up at the railway station. RSM Mooney, what a character he was.
What was his name?
Mooney, yeah.
What was his first name? Do you remember?
Oh no, we never knew first
You
names.
never knew first
Nothing to do with us. And I had to pick him up at the railway station when he turned up, because our old RSM had gone. There'd been a bit of a span, between. And I showed him up to his room, and I'd hardly got down into the office, and the desk phone rang. He said, "It's Sergeant Major Mooney." He said, "My hands are trapped in the window." So we went up, and he'd open the window to get a breath of fresh air and have a look around. They came crashed down, sash window.
How did he phone then? How did he phone?
Well, I don't know, but he freed himself.
Oh, I see.
Or he done something. He managed to get to a phone. So we went up there and took him to hospital. We said, "That's a good start for your time, sir." He said, "Oh well, he said, I'm Irish."
That's what he said.
Yeah. And so that was that. And in the winter in Vienna, they don't they don't think about the snow. It snows, so it snows. And it piles up, piles up, and piles up. And outside our office, which had been a civilian office block, there was this lamppost. And we had to have a truck outside on duty all the time so they could be called out if anything ever cropped up. And what we used to do, we used to lower the tailboard and put the tailboard chains around this lamppost, and it was gradually put on the. Otherwise the truck would have just slid down
Yeah, of course.
the hill, but nothing still. And yet, it didn't bring the place to a standstill. Everything still worked.
I know.
It's only us
I know.
that come to a complete standstill with that much
I know.
snow.
I was at James, my son, over in Canada.
Yeah.
Falls with snow 2 or 3 hours, and you're thinking, so that's it, you're stuck in. 3 hours later, everyone's back to driving along.
Yeah.
Here it's cut schools, no church.
Well, otherwise life just comes to a standstill, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So that was the sort of incidents. We used to get a lot of having to search places. One big place in Vienna is Schönberg Palace, Rio Palace. And every so often they phone and say that there were bombs in the cellars. We're searching those cellars. You just go on forever and never find anything. But you had to go, each time.
Yeah.
But we didn't do much. We'd just go and sit and have a smoke and chat while for an hour or whatever we thought was a reasonable
Kick it about.
time. Yeah,
Kick it about, yeah.
and then
So you were there from 1947, ish, doesn't matter
Yeah.
when. For how long? 2 years, 3 years?
well, I was there for a couple of years.
2 years.
Yeah. I know, with hindsight, I should have stayed in the army. It suited me.
Yeah.
It really did
Yeah.
suit
yeah.
me.
I
And
could see that actually. I could see.
Yeah,
I could see
and
you
I-
being quite.
I would have retired and,
Yes.
and have a decent pension now. You know, I mean, not that we're pressed for cash, we don't
No.
have any money problems at all, but,
No.
you know, it would have been that much easier. And I know that on the night that I was due to leave Vienna, the sergeant, the RSM, sent down a message from the sergeant's mess to ask me to join them. Well, that was unusual because I'd never heard of anybody ever being invited to the sergeant's mess. But anyway, I went and I was with them, I was drinking with them and talking with them. And the RSM said to me, he said, Giles, he said, why don't you stay in? I said, no. I said, I want out. He said, no, you don't. He said, you think you do because, you know, your time is up and you can go. He said, the army would suit you. He said, you'd make RSM.
Easy.
He said, in no time
Yeah.
at all. But no, I didn't take his advice.
Amazing, isn't it?
So I came back home and got a job back with Kennedy's scaffolding again. That was a job that I was very good at. You know, I really did
Yeah, excel.
excel in that sort of thing, and it suited me. When I was in Austria, I met Marie. Where did we meet? Klagenfurt? I met Marie in Klagenfurt.
What were you doing over there?
I was in the army
Okay.
because I wanted to learn, I wanted to drive and I wanted to travel. And that was the only way I could do it in those days because nobody had cars.
No.
But my father had been motor mechanic all his life and involved with cars. So that's what I did.
That's where I met her. Also there she realised how lucky she was meeting me. And she asked me if I'd marry her. And I thought, well, I wasn't doing anything on this particular Saturday. You know, there was no football or anything to watch.
So,
So we got married.
Yeah, you got married.
I went to Newcastle. I had a job to scrape up the money. It cost me a £5 by train from Bournemouth to Newcastle.
Five, that's a lot of money.
£5, it was a lot of money then.
No, I was saying it was a lot of money then, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. But, and Marie's father was concerned that she was marrying an old man. Didn't he make some comment about my age?
My mother,
Why?
Your
Why?
mother?
Why?
because he was sort of a big chap and he had a moustache and he just looked older than he.
How much older is it?
He's not. He's 18 months younger than me.
Wow.
And my mother's,
That sounds a lot, doesn't it?
I was 22 and my mother said, no, he's 29. I don't care what you say.
Seriously?
And I said, well, he's not. I
That's-
know.
It was the life that he led. Aged him.
So you got
She
married.
soon stopped that
You got married. You got married when? In
In Newcastle.
Newcastle.
in Newcastle.
When did you come from Newcastle?
My parents had moved from Essex when the Rockets and
Ah, okay, to
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
and so, you know, that was my home. So I got married from home
Okay.
and then we moved down here.
Whereabouts did you move to?
Moved to
Where did I live? We lived Cove Road.
Cove Road and then we got a flat in Winton.
Withermore Road.
Yeah,
Withermore Road, Winton.
So you working on the scaffolding?
yeah.
Mm.
And how long did you do that for? A long time.
Oh, yeah.
19 years.
Wow.
He was in scaffolding.
Yeah.
But see, I guess in a way, because I saw those pictures of you for your 80th, and there was those pictures of you on the scaffolding, and I didn't know, I wasn't sure where you'd cut. But
Yeah.
now it makes sense to me. I imagine in a funny old way, it's a bit like the army scaffolding, because you would have had to command quite a few people.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of quite an engineering.
He
Yeah.
was a gang.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, even though I was young, I had this knowledge, this art of scaffolding. It was something that I took to
Got it straight away.
straight away, and all the most complicated and dodgy jobs I used to get, which suited me fine. You know,
Yeah.
if you can enjoy your work,
Yeah, absolutely.
I did,
Yeah,
except in the winter,
yeah.
because then you were paid by the hour, and if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. And so we used to work in the most appalling conditions. And I know that when we were living at the bungalow at the back of what is the Merco station at Bear Cross, and I was coming home one night on the bus, because I didn't have any transport, and I could see my reflection in the mirror, and I thought, what do you look like? I was like a drowned rat, you know, been working in the rain
Freezing.
all day. And I went in the next day and quit.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, with no job prospect.
No.
You just had enough.
No. I just couldn't stand it anymore. You know, which was silly, because I'm just saying how much I enjoyed the job. But the things that went with it.
I was just going to say, just quickly, the same with 2 years ago. I love my work now. Yeah. But I got the company and the way that things were set up is what I didn't like. And yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, because I can recall this particular day. I was working around Westbourne somewhere, up on around somebody's chimney or something, and a shiver went through me. And just a few hours later, I had this flu, and I was just laid up. And I think at the same time, Marie was unwell, because we had the children, and we were trying to look after the children and look after ourselves, and it was a dodgy time.
But the union was.
Okay, fine.
There had been a riot in one of these nightclubs, and it was black versus white. And so we were called as the International Patrol to go and sort it out. Well, because we were working the American zone, the American was in charge of the patrol. And he was a thick Texan. He was even thicker than Bush. And we got there, and he said something like, what the hell's going on here, you know, to us outside. I said, I don't know, you better find out and sort it out. So, being the diplomat, he went into this club, pulled his pistol, fired a shot into the air. We did the ceiling no good. And so, of course, it went a bit quiet then. They stopped fighting. He said, right, you guys. White guys on the right and the niggers on the left. What? And he disappeared. I was gone. And I thought, well, that's a way to quell a riot between black and white people. White guys, white guys on the left, and the niggers on the. So after that had all been sorted, we continued our patrol. It was hilarious, but we continued. And the American, we would go and buy a club, and so I want to have a look in this club here. I said, fine. So we went with him, and there was an American soldier in there, black, as black as ace of spades. And he said, oh, what's this nigger doing here? I said, I don't know what he's doing here. So I said, well, let's find out. So I went over, and he said to him, stand up, boy. So he stood up straight away. he was very smartly dressed. You know, he really was smartly dressed.
Sharp.
And he said, "What are you doing here, boy?" He said, I'm just having a drink, sir." He said, "Were you part of that riot?" So I pulled him aside. I said, "Look, how could he be a part of that riot? Look at him. He's better dressed than we are." He said, "Oh, no, they're pretty clever, these niggers." I said, "Well, he's not that clever." So he said, "You're under arrest." So again, I pulled him aside. I said, "What's he under arrest for?" He said, "Well, I don't know yet." He said, "But he's done something."
Seriously?
Yeah. He said, "Oh, fair enough." So the soldier protested his innocence, but not too loud. And we took him back to the HQ. And this HQ, which was a big civilian building, and the French, Russian, well, all of us, we had our separate offices, you know, where our private officers used to be. So I went to mine, and my chap said, "You know, what are you doing back here, Giles?" And I said, "Oh, Lux just pulled in a man to take him upstairs for questions." "Oh, fair enough." So that was the end of that. No big deal there. And a few minutes later, our desk said to me, "You're wanted up in the American office." I said, "Fine." So I went up there. You've never seen anything like it. This man had been beaten. You would not believe how he was beaten. And so I said to Luck, "What happened here, Luck?" He said, "Oh, he tried to escape." I said, "I'm not stupid." He said, "Tried to escape from me. He knew full well if he made one move to escape, you'd shoot him dead." He said, "Well, he didn't answer the questions." Right. I said, "Oh, it's not good enough, old pal." He said, "What do you mean, not good enough?" I said, "I'm not going to corroborate any statement that you make." He said, "But you've got to, Giles." I said, "No, I don't have to do anything of the sort. I do not intend to corroborate anything that you say concerning this man." And whilst I was there, an American officer came in, white officer, and he spoke to Luck, you know, who said he was the one that brought him in and his reasons for bringing him in. And this officer said to me, he said, you were working with this patrol?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Is what he says true?" I said, "It's a load of rubbish." I said, "The man created absolutely no problems at all to us." He said, "I'm sure he wouldn't." He said, "'Cause I know him. He's one of my best men." He said, "He would never be so stupid as to question a white military policeman's authority." I said, "Well, he didn't." He said, "Well, look at the stages." And I said, "Well, I'm afraid that's your problem. I can't do anything about that." He said, "But would you corroborate what you've just said to me?" I said, "Yeah, sure, if you want me to." So I'll write it down. And I did. I made a statement to him. I never knew what happened. It didn't matter to me. It was their problem, not mine. But they were so, the Americans with racism.
Definitely. I remember Beryl Brewer saying when she was over in the States the first time, she said she thought she knew what racism was. She'd read it, but she saw it, and she's on the bus, a guy got on, stepped over the line on the bus, and the guy just put his guy head through the window. And now, that might be a sort of semi-average amount of violence, but for Beryl, that was just too much. She still got emotional at the time. And I'm thinking, yeah, we say we're prejudiced here, but we're not compared to some parts of the States, not at all. No.
Because with at those times during the war, the black Americans could only use Wyndham for their pubs and dances and one thing and another, and it was only the whites that were allowed in in Bournemouth Home.